Hey guys, it's Mathel here once again, and as most of you should have been aware of or could remember, my previous character, CoCSlammer, which was a cast on crit ground slam character, does still exist and still works as per 2.2. Not much has changed since 2.2 for the character except for the introduction of ascendancies and the nerf of Vinctors. So for those who do actually remember this character, cast on crit ground slam, it's got Bladefall, Glacial Cascade, and EK, and this is the life-based version, as I now have to refer to it as, and it's still really strong. What changed in the patch is Vinctors took a nerfing. Legacy 1 does still exist, which is the one I'm using here on Standard. Vinctors took a nerfing, meaning you need to invest in a Vile Pact to actually get Leech, sustainable Leech, and Reflect immunity back for the build. But Ascendancies did increase the viability of this build in general, and that is because Scion, Scion now lets you get 1.5% leech from the Berserker tree. So when we get 1.5% leech, that applies to all of our spells, Cascade, Bladeful, and EK. Meaning, all you need then is just Vile Pact, and from there on you have Reflect immunity, just not for the map type, and Sustainable Leech, so you're no longer reliant on flasks for any of your survivability. They just help you out, they're a bit of a crutch. Which makes the build a lot more reliable and better, which prompted the idea maybe we could do this as a Lowlife or ES base. Now, it was never a good idea to do it as Lowlife without Vile Pact, without Leech, and to go Lowlife you'd have to have sacrificed one of your gems for a Life Leech gem. We no longer have to do that because of Berserker and Scion. So let's jump on over and have a look. So here we are on the low-life version of CoCSlam, which is now a Scion and is on the Perandus League. This character is not terribly well geared yet, so it's still got quite a lot of things for me to figure out and do, but I figured I'd make a video basically updating for you that CoCSlam is still pretty viable and how you would play it these days, and the other possibilities. So here is the low-life character, level 88 Scion, don't knock it till you cock it. It is basically, the exact same character, just put into low-life version. So when we had a look at the passive tree a few days ago, and tried to make a low-life one, as someone suggested, basically, I could convert the entire life tree into the low-life tree without losing any real damage, and just strictly gaining lots of energy shield, as well as pain attunement. So it seemed like a no-brainer if you got the currency and the balls to do it. You can make a much better version of CoCSlam by having probably something like 20 to 30% more damage overall. I say 20 to 30 because you do lose the use of something like Rat's Nest and potentially Malagaras and whatever else. There's things to figure out. Essentially, this is what the character's looking like right now. We have Hatred on our life bar, running Discipline, running Herald of Ice, running Herald of Thunder. So with a 290 ES helm, a Shavs, fairly modest boots and gloves, we're almost at 6k ES. In the end, I would hope to have about 6.5, maybe 7k ES for the character, which is a good couple of thousand more of a damage buffer or effective HP over the life-based version, as well as having a Vile Discipline. Now, what I'm talking about with Scion here is, first of all, you do get 2 extra passive points for the tree, which is very handy. But what we're mostly talking about is the Berserker, 1.5% of damage leeched as life. So that means all of my spells get pure leech applied to them, and then all I gotta do is take a Vile Pact, and that keeps me up indefinitely against most Reflect packs and tough packs of monsters, bosses, etc. On top of that, you also gain 10% more damage, so that's just a nice freebie we get. And then you take Assassin for the 1% extra critical strike chance. That is base crit. So essentially that puts this scepter from 8.8 to 9.8. And also puts my Bladefall from 5 to 6, and my Cascade from 5 to 6, which is a nice 20% increase in crit. On top of that, you also get 10% chance to gain a power charge on hit against enemies that are on full life. Now, it sounds kind of shitty, but it actually keeps up power charges on this build pretty much indefinitely on curse immune maps. Normally, for curses, I use curse on hit and Assassin's Mark with our heralds, and that keeps up power charges. But if it's a curse immune map, this actually does a pretty good job of keeping up power charges anyway. As well as that, we maim enemies, which basically means fucking nothing because we're perma-freezing, slowing things anyway. But beyond that, there was a few things to figure out with the character. Like, initially I was wearing a shield, but wearing a shield means I can no longer Whirling Blade, and that is kind of a deal breaker. So I had to drop my shield to put on a nice dagger, which gives us a bit of extra crit damage and all of that, and the ability to whirl. Which meant I then had to actually wear energy shield items in both my boot and glove slot. So I had to try and get a good chunk of energy shield in both of those to make up for the fact that I'm not wearing a shield, which then meant I had to wear an Eye of Cholula instead of Lionized Paws. So you need some stun immunity somewhere, this is our choice. And the other thing is, we do get a fair amount of mana and unreserved mana in our current setup, meaning I only have to wear one Elrond ring to help with the mana cost of Ground Slam, and the other one is freed up for God knows what, but even this one Elrond ring isn't really necessary. Without it, it costs 15 mana for Ground Slam. Assassin's Mark, for the most part, will keep stuff up, so that's not a big deal. But yeah, the build's been going pretty well and working fairly well. At this stage, my Bladefall average damage is pretty much the same as what my Bladefall is on the previous character, and yet this one still has quite a way to go. So the addition of Permanent Leech and a Vile Discipline does add some good extra defensive layers to the build, and consistency for the hard stuff. And I do these days have a better computer as well. I upgraded mine about a month or two ago, so it's a lot less laggy playing a build like this. But regardless, the point here is it's mostly worth doing, I think. It's basically, this is going to be, as far as I can tell, Lowlife CoCSlam should only really be an option when you've exhausted the possibilities of life-based CoCSlam and you have a bunch of currency to throw at a build and think you still want to do this type of build. Because without super good ES gear, energy shield gear, I mean to say, and without, a good amount of currency to invest in other items, it's probably not terribly worth doing. I would still, at this stage, having not completed the build, that said, I would still recommend doing the life-based version, and I think the life-based version is a good, competent build these days for you to do without a terribly huge amount of invested currency. One of the large problems with the low-life version is for a 6-link, you're going to need a Shavs, and you're going to need your Shavs to be 6-linked with 5 off-colors in the perfect situation, because EK is your 6th link and it is a green. Meaning that's a 5th off color. If you just can't be bothered getting a 5th off color for that 6th link, then the other alternative is to use increased crit strikes, the gem, and to drop disemboweling, which then lets you reallocate some of your points into spell power or other nifty things like maybe some more ES, whatever it may be you want. But EK should be the strongest 6th link option, which makes Shav somewhat of a tough build to make work with low-life CoCSlam, which is why I'd still probably recommend the life-based version. As well as that, you can run a tabular for as long as you want for an easy free 6-link with the life-based version, which gives you insane damage. Now, one other thing I will mention is Vinktar's, while nerfed, probably is still worth shoving into the build somewhere. Right now I don't have terribly reliable shock chance, I only really have damage from my Herald of Thunder, meaning I barely shock anything. Vinktar's, I may still fit into the build just purely to try and get some shock happening, rather than actually use it for any other utility, for leech or damage or anything, just pure shock, because that is a nice 50% damage boost. And as you can see, we've gotten to Atsiri here. This is my first Atsiri run on the character, I believe. It's not a great Atsiri character, and that is because of the way your ground slam and multi-strike work, and the amount of AoE I have. The split phase makes things rather difficult because of those. Yeah, everything up till its as you saw with the previous couple of kills, pretty goddamn easy, and even on Uber should be doable. But when we're talking at Siri, I have to attack on the opposite side of the mirror to only hit the one that's not going to hit the mirror, otherwise my AoE will get me killed. This was my first run. It did go well enough. Now that we have permanent, consistent leech, it's not too bad. It's just that the mirror ad gives us quite a bit of grief in certain situations. Anyway, if you still want to play some CoCSlam, I would recommend the life-based version. I've put up a guide for it now as well. I will also try and flesh out the rest of this character in the future for the next few levels. Try and see the potential of this character's damage compared to the life-based version. See if it is truly worth it. I think with enough gear and currency spent, it should be worth it. But maybe just not worth it enough. At least from my point of view. If you're going from CoCSlam, maybe CoCSlam is a right point to stop at. The life-based version, that is. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm sorry, guys, I'm rambling. Basically, yeah, we'll see how it goes, and I don't have any definitive answers for you just yet. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you guys next time.